Hello and welcome to my illustrated podcast. Today I'm talking about how film noir has been transferred into popular modern media text. Not only is film noir used as fiction in film, it is also being used in many modern television production too. The text I'm discussing about is Billy Wilder's 1944 film noir mystery thriller, Double Indemnity, Martin Scorsese's 1976 vigilante neo-noir thriller, Taxi Driver, and 1986 BBC serial drama, The Single Detective, written by Dennis Potter. The reason why I chose these texts is because all three of them have a similar story behind them, focusing primarily on one character who has done things that he regrets and things that he does not regret too. This is mostly aimed at Double Indemnity and Taxi Driver. Double Indemnity starts off with a character named Walter Neff, a travel insurance salesman who arrives back at his office, wounded from a gunshot. With nobody else in the building, he confesses his crime into a sound recorder. This film is dealing with the past, but it's only in a short amount of time. Walter confesses that he killed a man for money and for a woman. However, in Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle, who is an honorably discharged Vietnam War veteran, suffering from insomnia, works long nights as a New York taxi driver. Later on in the film, he dreams to become a vigilante, to take unpredictable actions for reasons that he only understands. He dreams to help a 13-year-old street prostitute stay out of the deadly trap of city life, but it's pretty clear to us that he has affections for her. He believes in his mind that the rain will pour to wash the scum off the streets. However, back to Double Indemnity, Walter and the wife of a wealthy husband plan to kill him for his money to cover Walter's insurance claim that he intends to sign her on. In The Singer Detective, Philip Marlowe is a mystery author suffering from a chronic skin and joint disease who falls into a fantasy world whilst hospitalised. He's writing a detective mystery story in his mind. He devises it as being an adventure of a detective who sings at a dance hall and takes jobs the guys who don't sing won't take. To start off this podcast, I'm going to discuss Taxi Driver, because I think this text is really important as it's one of the first modern noirs in American cinema. This is one of Martin Scorsese's first independent films after making the breakthrough crime thriller Mean Streets in 1973, along with American actor friend Robert De Niro. Not many people consider Taxi Driver to be a noir as such. However, if you look at some of the significant shots, for example, Travis and Betsy in the diner having coffee and pie, and a conversation between them in the Palatine campaign quarters, you can sense the noir feeling for yourself. Imagine this shot in black and white. It has that classic noir theme to it. However, this does not define Taxi Driver as a noir, because it's too modern. This is due to the dress sense and the setting of the scene. Another shot is the scene between Travis in the taxi with an unnamed passenger, cameo appearance by Scorsese himself. The passenger talks about committing homicide against his wife, looking at the building from the taxi's perspective. Travis just stays still and does not join in with the discussion. He just looks into the rear-view mirror, becoming increasingly disturbed by the passenger's dialogue. The setting of the shot is very bleak, because most of the atmosphere is dark and blurred out and moves away from a disturbing conversation inside a taxi. As you can see, there are many shadows in the shot. Once again, if you see this shot in black and white, it has the classic noir theme to it, but even though of how dark it looks, you cannot put Taxi Driver as the film noir still. However, I think scenes with Travis driving through the streets of New York has more significant noir themes to it. The reason of this is because New York has many cultures scattered around the city and can almost fit into any theme. For all we know, the advertisement branding logos, setting of diners, or even film titles advertised on cinema billboards could very well be set in the 1950s. However, due to Taxi Driver spreading controversy coming into conflict with the MPAA for its increasing level of violence, there is no possible way that this film could be made today, or even back in the day when classic film noir was at its peak. For a film like Double Indemnity, you would still make this kind of film today. Let's take a look at a selection of noir-themed shots in Taxi Driver and how they can be related to classic film noir era. But now let's move on to Double Indemnity. This film was released in 1944, which was the peak of the classic film noir. One interesting shot which includes the now popular lighting technique, Venetian blind effect. The cinematographer decided to use this effect because it subconsciously traps the characters and makes them feel like they're in the prison cell. This shot here is where we see Walter Neff, played by Fred McMurray, has just arrived at the Dietrichson household and is introduced to the attractive femme fatale, Mrs. Dietrichson, played by Barbara Stanwyck. Walter makes his way into the living room. In the framing of the shot, we can see the Venetian blind effect. It is done so well because the lighting is positioned very accurately. Walter and his surroundings in this shot is captured very tightly, looking like he has no escape. Walter is entrapped because he's getting involved with a woman who is not happy living with her husband, no matter how wealthy he is. Walter and Mrs. Dietrichson think it's a good idea to kill him, so both of them will get a good substantial payout for an insurance policy that Walter has prescribed. After Walter's visit to the Dietrichson household and his acquaintance with the wife, he cannot take his mind off her as he seems to have affections towards her. In classic film noir, female characters known to be femme fatale is usually a stock character of a mysterious and seductive woman who charms and ensnares her lovers, often leading them into compromising, dangerous and deadly situations. Let's take a look at some significant shot examples that show many Venetian blind lighting effects and how femme fatales are represented in Indemnity. Now let's move on to how film noir can be recognised in television production. The text I've chosen for this matter is A Singing Detective, written by Dennis Potter and starring Michael Gambon. It's very rare that you consider film noir to be used as a style in television. However, The Singing Detective is a perfect example. Mystery writer Philip Marlowe is writing and picturing a noir thriller in his mind. Whilst he's hospitalised with a chronic skin and joint disease, he's thinking aloud about how his film noir refers to a real story that happened back in the 1950s. So the whole story is dealing with a flashback itself. The sequences were shot in very dark and musky locations to give that sense of a noir style. The characters involved in the noir style flashback were dressed in trench coats with suit combination. At the time the series was made, writer Dennis Potter took many inspiration from Agatha Christie films and novels, because they have synergies of what Singing Detective was achieving. However, the flashback sequences were filmed in colour, but due to the dark and musky locations it was shot in, it still looks like a film noir thriller. If the characters were dressed up in modern clothing, which looks untidy, you would consider the sequences more neo-noir to that effect. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. It just goes to show you that film noir styles can be recognised in many modern film and television media texts. You just have to look well into the shots that are being viewed to you. Think about how and why these shots are used to represent and specify a film thriller, or film with noir elements. Can noir elements be recognised in a film like Taxi Driver? Film noir style is used for a reason, and if you can find out that reason why, then it's well worth the research. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.